Bon matin et bienvenue. Jalasi Weli Gsipuk. I would like to warmly welcome all of you here and begin by acknowledging that we gather here today on Mi'kmaq territory. I'm Allison Smith, and I am co-chair of the LGBTI Network. As many of you know, the LGBTI Network is a group of over 150 LGBTIQ+ public servants, as well as allies and advocates. The network strives to create and maintain supportive and inclusive workplaces for employees of the province of Nova Scotia of diverse sexual orientations, sexes, gender identities, and gender expressions. Together, we make the public service a more positive and inclusive environment. We're here today to proudly acknowledge and celebrate the strengths that we share in the various aspects of our diversity. June 28th marks the anniversary of the Stonewall riots, which was the beginning of Pride as we know it. We raise the flag today in proximity to this date in recognition of the day's historical significance. 48 years ago yesterday, at the Stonewall Inn in New York City, LGBTIQ+ people took a stand and united fought back against violence and discrimination. Today we reflect on the incredible work that has been done since then to further the rights and equality of LGBTIQ+ people. As but one very notable example, we celebrate the very recent and long-awaited passing of Bill C-16 in the Senate. The passing of this bill means that the Canadian Human Rights Act and the Criminal Code will be updated to include gender identity and gender expression, thus extending vital protections to some of our most vulnerable community members. Pride is also a time to reflect on the work that is left to be done. While we very proudly recognize the triumphs of our rainbow community, we also recognize the reality of many LGBTIQ+ individuals in Canada and worldwide whose lives are marked by injustices and violence. In particular, we recognize the ways that individuals face increased marginalization when diverse characteristics intersect. This year, the network has focused on the importance of addressing diversity and inclusion through an intersectional lens. We recognize the disproportionate violence that occurs against trans and gender variant people, and particularly to members of our community who are Black, Indigenous, or people of color. The Pride flag raising is an important symbol of the commitment of the Nova Scotia Public Service to creating safer, more inclusive spaces in which we can all be open and proud of who we are in all aspects of our diversity. The flag is a significant visual symbol of inclusivity and acceptance. With the importance of visibility in mind, this year, the Nova Scotia government is also displaying Pride flags inside 7 provincial buildings across the province. This year, flags will be displayed in Yarmouth, Bridgewater, Kentville, Truro, Amherst, Port Hawkesbury, and Sydney. It is important to see LGBTIQ+ pride in rural areas of Nova Scotia, in addition to here in Halifax. As co-chair of the LGBTI Network, I'm very pleased to introduce our first guest speaker for today. We welcome Public Service Minister Tony Ince.
Thank you, Allison. First, I'd like to acknowledge a few people in the room. Mr. Gary Burrow, Barb Adams, Minister Kasoulis, MP Andy Fillmore, and I think I've gotten everybody. If I've forgotten somebody, please forgive me. It's an honor to join you today for this important event. We've been raising the Pride flag in Nova Scotia out in front of this building since 2010. As one of the largest employers in the government, it is important that we proudly and publicly display our support for our lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, intersex, and queer employees, as well as all Nova Scotians. As the Minister of the Public Service Commission, I believe the workplace must be a safe, inclusive place and value everyone fully and equitably. I always have a problem with that word. We are stronger as a community and a province together, and we are much stronger if we are inclusive and we share that inclusivity as a public service. As a government, we take seriously the social and legal inclusion of people of diverse sexual orientation, sexes, and gender identities, and gender expressions. In recent years, we have removed the requirement for Nova Scotians to have gender-affirming surgeries in order to change the sex designation on their birth certificates. I'm proud to say that we are the first provincial public service in Canada to introduce guidelines to support trans and gender-variant employees. And I want to sincerely commend the network for their work and their ongoing commitment to ensuring that our workplace for the public service is safe and one that is respectful of all people. The network has been working on initiatives that help make the government workplaces more inclusive, supportive, and welcoming to LGBTIQ+ employees by building a network of allies across the province. Many of you are here today, and I want to thank you for being here and being so supportive. I also want to acknowledge the recent passing of Bill C-16 in Ottawa. This bill protects Canadians from discrimination based on gender identity and gender expression. While trans and gender variant people can expect equal treatment under the law, we still have work to do to create equitable, safe places and respect inclusion of trans and gender variant people in our workplaces and communities. As a government, we are committed to do this work. In closing, as we raise the pride flag today, I invite you to take time to celebrate our pride, celebrate our diversity, and reflect on the meaning of this day and what this flag represents. It is a privilege to share this day with all of you. Thank you for supporting the diversity and inclusion in our province, and thank you for supporting the LGBTIQ+ people across Nova Scotia. I want to share something with you for a moment, if I may. I'm sweating to death here. But last night, as I was looking over my remarks, I realized something, that I have an inherent bias. That I realized when I was reading my remarks, I was putting a label on this, and I had to sit back last night and look at myself and say, where is this coming from? Because it's not on the paper. So it's an ever learning process for all of us to really look at yourself, to look at how you view things, and take a moment to even listen to yourself and what you're saying. Because that's when I realized last night, you know what? I have a lot more work to do myself. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Minister Ince, for your words and for your self-reflection. Next, we welcome Commissioner Laura Lee Langley and thank her so much for her ongoing commitment to diversity and inclusion. Commissioner Langley has been the deputy champion of the LGBTI network, and she continues to guide and support us. So please join me in welcoming Commissioner Langley.
Thank you, Allison, and good morning to you all. Minister Ince, Minister Kasoulis, Gary Burrell, MP Fillmore, deputy colleagues who are here. I see Duff Montgomery. I don't know if there's anyone else, but if you're out there, Thank you for coming. You know, this room is full, and for the second year in a row, we have an overflow room downstairs where there are people, so I want to say hello to them as well, and thank you for coming. This keeps growing every single year, and I am just busting when I come in the room and see so many faces that I know and so many that I don't know, and I'm anxious to get to know as we continue this important work. You know, I have the great privilege of standing here today as the head of the public service and as the deputy champion for the provincial government's LGBTI network. And I link those two things, not to be boastful, but because they need to be linked. The head of the public service and the champion of the LGBTI network. They need to be linked because it's important that on every single level, provincial government leadership is stepping out to say, people need to feel safe to bring their whole selves to work. And it couldn't apply more than it does with our LGBTIQ plus employees. And so that's why I link those two things. We want a workplace that represents and reflects the voices and the talents of our diverse communities. And today we celebrate and we distinguish our LGBTIQ plus friends and colleagues. And it has been referenced already that this is the 7th year that we have come together here to raise the pride flag at Province House. And in that time, we've made significant progress in creating awareness, understanding, and safe spaces for our LGBTIQ plus employees. And I was saying that while we came together here in 2010 and it was lovely, it was a few of us and a lovely cake. And now look at what we have. We couldn't possibly provide cake for all of us because we would use up all the provincial government surplus for sure. But this is largely because of the 150 plus members of the LGBTI employee network and the Public Service Commission hearing about and responding to the real experiences of our employees and working together to make their employment experience in government one that is rewarding and one in which they feel welcomed, valued, respected, and safe. Everyone in this room, everyone who is watching online and across government has an important role in creating and maintaining supportive workplaces for employees of diverse sexual orientations, sexes, gender identities, and gender expressions. Today we have this great opportunity to celebrate the phenomenal work on diversity and inclusion that happens in the public service. And I always say that knowing that we have much more to do. But in particular, we have a chance to shine a spotlight on the LGBTI network, which is doing so much to promote diversity and inclusion. The LGBTI network is composed of about 150 public servants, maybe a little more than that, who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, two-spirit, queer, or intersex, as well as their allies and their advocates. Network members are passionate and tireless volunteers who dedicate substantial time and effort to make sure that our workplace is welcoming to LGBTIQ plus employees. And judging by events such as today's pride flag raising, it's obvious that they're doing a great job. They quietly go about it. We have meetings every once in a while. The council meets, and every time we come around to our AGM, I'm absolutely blown away at what has actually been accomplished over the past year. So to those of you in the network, some of you have been there from the very beginning back in 2010. I hope you're proud of the momentum that you are creating and building upon. Last year, more than 1,000 people watched the flag raising all across this province. And flags were raised across the province and even more this year. That's progress, I think. The network was also instrumental in the development and promotion of government's guidelines to support trans and gender variant employees. The Nova Scotia government introduced the guidelines in May of 2016. We are very proud of it. And we are the first provincial public service in Canada to introduce these guidelines, and I am so very proud that we are leading the way. And in addition to helping develop and implement the guidelines, the LGBTI network has continued to create a positive space for our employees, create awareness of LGBTIQ plus issues, and strengthen our workplace. We are getting stronger, we are getting louder, and we are getting prouder every single day. Over this past year, the network has launched their very first action plan, and they were instrumental in planning the second diversity conference for public servants. The network held 3 well-attended and successful lunch and learns on topics including bisexual visibility, transgender awareness, and Two-Spirit Perspectives, which was co-hosted with the First Nations Ilnu Network. And one of the things that I am most boastful about, I think, is the Positive Spaces program, because education and awareness is absolutely critical, and so too is building a strong group of allies to make this a safe and inclusive place to work. The Positive Spaces program was developed in partnership with the network and the Public Service Commission, and what it really aims to do is build a network of allies across government who work together to develop and maintain a safe, respectful, and inclusive work environment free from discrimination and harassment of LGBTIQ+ employees. The program has training around key concepts, experiences related to diverse sexual orientation, sexes, gender identities, and gender expressions, as well as the skills that you require to be a real ally. It's not a mail-order course. You need to go in and you need to do the work. This year, we had more than 150 employees participate in the Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity 101 course, and we now have more than 80 employees who are allies within the Positive Spaces program. So I'm encouraging all of you who are here today, and those of you who may be watching online, to consider becoming an ally. It's a small investment for something that can have so much impact in and around your workplaces and for the colleagues that stand around you. As we look ahead, the LGBTI network will spend the next year focused on the importance of looking at diversity and inclusion through an intersectional lens. That's the next step. We're very, very excited about this, and Allison referenced it a little earlier. And this approach means recognizing the ways in which various aspects of our diversity interact and shape both who we are and about how we are treated by others. And it will cause all of us to reflect on how we see one another, not just Minister Ince, who shared with us his reflection. The network will also be updating its name to be more inclusive of the diverse identities that are not all captured within the LGBTI acronym. So in the coming months, it will change its name to Pride Nova Scotia Network as it continues its work in LGBTIQ+ diversity and inclusion. So I'm going to wrap up. I do want to again emphasize the commitment to providing a workplace that values diversity and inclusion and is free from barriers and discrimination. And I remind everybody that this is work that is never complete. We can never relax. We always have to have our eyes open and our heads up on this work for sure. But I do want you to join me in being the change. I want you to join me in committing to learn something new this year on this issue. I want you to join me in reflecting constantly on how you're seeing the world. I want you to volunteer in your community. And finally, I want to encourage our government employees to show their pride at activities in their communities and here in the public service. You know, I have an employee story to share. It'll only take me a moment. But just recently, a colleague said, you know, when I first joined the public service, I couldn't come out. I was really nervous about coming out for all kinds of reasons. And he said, you know, last year I danced with you on the Pride Parade float. And that, to me, is progress. And I think it is, too. And so I can't wait to dance on the Pride Parade float. I hope we have so many people that we can't fit them all on the float. So I'm inviting you to join me to dance on the Pride Parade float on Saturday, July 22nd. I want our present to be loud, proud, and strong. And I will see you there. Happy Pride to you all. Are these yours? Is that yours?
Thank you so much, Commissioner Langley and Minister Ince, for being here with us today and sharing with us all your valuable perspectives. It's so heartening to see so many people here today, especially considering the heat in this room and the lack of cake. And we appreciate that you share our goal that all public servants can bring their full selves to work. So I invite you now to join us as we head outside to raise the pride flag. You can gather in front of the statue of Joseph Howe. Media are most welcome to join us, and there will be an opportunity to speak with the minister and with Commissioner Langley following the flag raising. So thank you again so much for being here.
We're actually working on creating a positive spaces for the adults to not only defending guests, because I might develop, but the employees. Like, that's big. Huge. Yeah. Are you here for Deb's event, or are you
No, I was
just...
here for the opening exhibit at the summer street fair last night. It's a really cool exhibit about an option on Scotia.
Oh, okay.
So it's very nice. So I thought I'd come on.
Yeah, they have a geodesic front. Is that part of the exhibit, or is that part of the renos? Oh, this is... Okay, it was really nice to see you too, Deb.
Nobody looking out.
Oh, yes, yes. But at least people feel like they're. Some of us, James.